The big question: would you buy to live, buy to let, or does Leeds need more investment before you even think about it? Right, let's have a butchers and see wagwan. This is an auction property. Always check the legal pack. As well as auction fees, you may have additional costs and other property problems. Today we are viewing a leasehold apartment on the ground floor, 1 bed, 1 bath. The parking is free, whether it's on the street or at the rear, and there is a bit of outside community space. From Leeds train station, it is a 13-minute drive, 12 minutes for the cyclists, 45 minutes for the walkers, 30 minutes on the bus with a 3-minute walk to the bus stop. There is no storage in this property and the EPC rating is C. Hey, but we like to see. The apartment is 34 square meters. I think the landlord is local and they purchased the apartment in August 2003 and paid $37,800. We enter directly into the kitchen and the first thing that is noticeable is the rising damp. There was a problem with the above flat. The shower was leaking, but the issue has been solved amicably, so that's something to note. The property was recently rented for £600 per coming month. Buyer premium: what the buyer needs to pay the seller. £200 towards engrossment. For leasehold properties, first thing, our priority question: is the property EWS1 compliant? There wasn't any information in the legal pack unless I missed it. I don't think it needs it, but double check with the solicitors because a question is cheaper than a bill. The lease was issued on the 15th of September 1972 for 99 years. Ah boy, we have a problem. There is 46 years left on the lease. There is a free online lease extension calculator. So let's see what the costs are to extend the lease. Oh my days, this is sticky. How have you got here? Why has so many years passed and this has not been dealt with? When the property was purchased in 2003, there was 68 years left remaining on the lease. Why was the lease not extended then? The question I would like to ask everybody: who needs to accept responsibility for this? Is it the owner? When buying a property, should you know all of this information before you even make an offer? What if you're a first-time buyer and you don't know what questions to ask? What if you're a landlord from overseas and don't understand the English lease system? You could argue that we're in the digital age and there are no excuses. But you don't know what you don't know, and leaseholds can be complicated. Should solicitors be responsible for explaining lease issues prior to a purchase in a meeting with their client? Or have some kind of standard lease advice report where there's information like what happens if the lease is short, what happens if the lease is, in this case, under 50 years, what happens if the freeholder is bona vacantia and there is no block managers? We have been here before, video linked to the end. Should the solicitors be sending out lease extension reminders every 6 to 12 months? Or should there be some kind of central government system that sends out reminders every couple of years? You need to renew the lease. This is the consequences of not renewing it in time. How can we avoid someone else getting into this situation? I've gone back online as we really need a very rough estimate of how much the extension is going to cost, and these are my findings. Plus, there are the freeholders' legal fees, valuation fees, your legal fees. There could be administration fees on top of that. This is very expensive and probably why it is an auction property. The question can also be asked: can the owner afford to extend it? And if they can't afford to extend the lease, what will they do next? The ground rent and service charge is £87 per coming month, and that includes insurance. Can I just explain how I got to the ground rent of £40 per year when calculating the lease extension cost? The property is ex-council, and I know for a fact in recent years the ground rent charge for the local council was £10 per quarter. Now, this could have gone up like everything else in recent years, but I can't imagine the ground rent doubling or increasing by 50%. Now, if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments, as that level of increase is wild. Within the next 2 years, are any Section 20 works proposed to the property? I didn't see anything, but I would double check this, as this property really doesn't need any more costs. The block managers are based in Yorkshire, just outside Leeds. Listen to this. It states on the lease information form that the block manager can be awkward and difficult to get information from. Something to note for the future. There is a separate management company managing this block and not the council themselves, so it might be a right to manage, so that's something you will need to look into for your satisfaction. First time buyers, what are you thinking? Channel first time buyers, we are going to have to keep it moving. This is a cash only purchase. There is not the budget, nor do we want the stress of all this lease extension. Plus the property has rise and damp issues. It's a big no. If the circumstances were different, based on the guide and stressed at a mortgage rate of 6% with a deposit of 10%, the mortgage is £247.50. This property is in council tax band A. You will need to speak with the council tax about a single person discount. Landlords, we are up north. Do you think you will get a 10% gross yield on this property? Will it be 10% once you have paid for the lease extension? Would you buy the property? Would you take the risk? I think this is an interesting deal for a property investor, someone who deals with lease extensions all the time. We understand why it's gone into an auction, but this deal is best suited as a private sale, I think anyway. There are a lot of questions to ask and a lot of numbers to crunch, and that might take a little time. With a guide of 55 grand, about 20 grand to extend the lease, and another 5 grand in fees, there's probably no profit there. So let's start the things. A property investor, the offer is likely to be closer to 40 grand. Looking at rentals, what are one beds in the local area on the market for? Should a landlord choose, this property is open to a housing benefit tenant, and it's getting harder and harder and harder for housing benefit tenants to find private properties, as the market rents exceed LHA, and in some areas that could be the difference of a couple of £100s. Looking at short-term rentals in the local area, how much can we charge for 4 guests per night? Let's do the Gym Jam test. Is a local shop close enough to pop in our Gym Jams on a Sunday morning? Looking at sales, what are one beds in the local area on the market for? I only managed to find one comparable that is also an ex-council. A lot of comparables are new builds or conversions within the last 10 years. Putting the issues aside, this is a nice home for a single person and it's very low maintenance. Would you buy this property if there were no damp or no lease issues? Let's have a look at the sales history of the property and if the property sold. And we have our shop. Back in auction.